Seed slavery in Kenya. How foreign corporations are criminalizing African farmers. You may not know her name, but Francisca is one of the thousands of farmers fighting for their survival in Kenya. Her crime? Saving seeds. Sharing seeds. And now, for doing what her ancestors have done for generations, she could go to prison for 2 years, or pay a fine of 1 million Kenyan shillings.
Kenyan farmer, Francisca, needs your help. Meet Francisca, a Kenyan farmer about to lose her only source of livelihood and also her community's right to food sovereignty. Farmers like her are at risk of being imprisoned for up to 2 years or slapped with a fine of 1 million Kenyan shillings, an equivalent of $6,000 because of a stupid seed law. Let me explain. Under the Seed and Plant Varieties Act, there is a punitive law that prevents local farmers from freely selling, exchanging, and sharing their indigenous seeds. This age-old tradition has been passed down from generation to generation, allowing local farmers to contribute to 75% of Kenya's food output. These farmers are now forced to depend on costly certified seeds that only make corporations richer and push smallholder farmers into a vicious cycle of debt and dependency. How is this fair? It's not. But there is hope. You can call out the Kenyan government to abolish this oppressive seed law and help farmers like Francisca regain control of their future. Support them in their plea for justice. Sign the petition today.
This is not a conspiracy theory. This is the law. And this is the story they don't want you to hear. In 2012, the Kenyan government passed the Seed and Plant Varieties Act, Cap 326. On paper it sounds like a regulation, but in reality it criminalizes farmers who sell, exchange, or even share indigenous seeds unless they are certified. And who controls certification? Not the farmers, not the villages, but corporate seed companies backed by foreign money. The punishment? Up to 2 years in prison or a fine of 1 million shillings. Nearly $6,000. For many Kenyan farmers, that's more than a lifetime's earnings. For what crime? Feeding their families the African way. But Kenyan farmers are not silent. On July 24th, they will go to court to challenge this oppressive seed law. Led by grassroots networks like Seed Savers Network Kenya and Greenpeace Africa, these farmers are demanding their right to plant, save, and share their own seeds. They are not asking for charity, they are asking for justice. Claire Nasica of Greenpeace says the law is punitive and only benefits large-scale corporations. The people who actually feed Kenya, the smallholder farmers who grow 75% of the nation's food, are being pushed aside.
To note that in Kenya today, small-scale farmers rely on exchange of seeds with their neighbors to secure their food supply. And this is largely characterized by the lack of seed testing, certification, and formal registration or quality control. And many farmers again in Kenya have over the years seen the need to save some seeds and share these seeds with their neighbors to grow during the subsequent cropping season. So this law, the Seed and Plant Varieties Act, Cap 326, requires the registration of seed merchants and the certification of seeds in Kenya, whereby the registered seed merchants, mostly of them are corporates or big seed ag companies, manage the production, processing, and packaging, as well as distribution of seeds, making it a crime to plant and exchange uncertified seeds, which are the core of indigenous knowledge by farmers who've used these indigenous seeds since time immemorial.
This is not just about policy. It's about people like Francisca. She is a Kenyan farmer, a mother, a woman of the soil. Now she faces prison for simply using the seeds her ancestors passed down to her. The same seeds that have sustained her community for generations. Now the government wants to replace them with expensive, certified seeds from foreign-backed firms. Seeds that trap her in a cycle of debt and dependency. Francisca is not alone. Thousands stand with her, but they need your voice too. You may wonder, how did Kenya end up here? The answer lies far beyond its borders. The International Union for the Protection of New Varieties of Plants UPOV is not an African body. It is a legal machine created by Western countries under the World Intellectual Property Organization and enforced by the World Trade Organization. Its purpose? To globalize seed ownership and push poor countries to criminalize indigenous agriculture. These people didn't ask us. They didn't ask the farmers. They didn't ask the ancestors who carried these seeds for thousands of years. They just came, branded the seed, and claimed ownership. Now African farmers are being told, plant our seeds or go to jail. Buy our seeds or lose your farm. Register your heritage or be criminalized. This is not development. This is seed slavery. And the world must know.
So why do we feel the need to go and patent things and make laws and regulations and stipulations and imprison people if they don't and if they do? It is like this whole thing with UPOV, the International Union for the Protection of Plant Varieties. I think I got that right. Which is a body under the World Trade Organization, which is part of the UPOV is under the WIPO, which is IPO Protection Global, which is under the World Trade Organization, which created the necessary pressures using its governmental networks. Because when you look into the history of UPOV and everything, it's not even a governmental body or, you know, some signatory something, whatever these people go and change themselves with an international level and then say they're doing the best for their people. It's not one of those, but it was able to generate sufficient pressure to cause governments in least developed countries and regions for them to sign up to UPOV so that they can comply with something that the World Trade Organization required governments to comply with by a certain time frame, which then turned into this whole prison system around seeds. Because it's under UPOV that companies that are doing messes with seeds, as if seeds are inadequate, have now come to protect their rights to trade and earn from those seeds. I don't know whose permission they took when they took the original seed and started to tamper with it. Because that original seed had been in existence for ages. If you believe the people who believe in Darwinism, then it's hundreds of millions of years. May I just say, however long it has been since these things were created, did any one of these super scientists go and ask the person who made everything for permission to go and start messing around with the stuff inside the seed before they started going to claim it as property? Because you take my stuff and then you mess around with it. I was the original owner. How do we discuss this matter? So if I'm the creator and I'm just watching you messing around with my stuff and then going to tell my other creations, now you pay me, I think I'll laugh you out of existence, which I think is happening. But anyway, yes, so stupid laws. Once you're a signatory to UPOV, you are required by your obligations to that union to create a law in your country that prohibits your people from storing, sharing, exchanging and selling their indigenous seeds because they want to protect the money makers. So you immediately turn your people into lawbreakers if they're just doing what they do, and especially if they haven't heard anything about this stuff anywhere, which is likely. Because, like, for instance, Kenya, which is the subject of this particular story, they enacted their law in 2012. I had no clue it was 2012. But thank God, in 2022, I had no idea. Again, it was 2022. A gentleman by the name of Richard Opete got up and got himself together with some local farmers and decided to challenge the government and take this whole Kenya's Seed Law Protection Act thing, take it to court for changes to be made, because they said that it doesn't make any sense. If you really are pursuing the issue of food sovereignty, then people should be allowed to continue the practices that they've continued for generations. That local farmers cannot afford to keep buying certified seed year after year for each planting cycle. It's too expensive. And then to buy the accompanying fertilizers that would be required, and of course the herbicides and the pesticides, is ridiculous. And so they want things to be changed so that at least people are given the liberty to be able to produce food with peace of mind and are not in danger of being fined 1 million shillings, or imprisoned because of trying to grow food. When you think about UPOV and then you think about the requirement to create laws that will protect the people who have gone to mess around with the original seed, you have to ask yourself, who in their right mind created such a law? Because it had to be someone who was very, 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 very interested in putting something in their own pocket and was not at all interested in what was going to happen to billions of people around the world because of that conversation at the table. They said to themselves, billions of people need to eat. I shall control this variety of wheat. And another one said, I will control corn. I will control rice. I will control... There isn't one farm, one in the world that can feed everybody in the world. It's not possible. However much land you control, you can't. And it's so unpredictable because people don't think. People don't think that somebody made this world. People don't understand that, like what's happened in East Africa with this flooding. You will go with every good intention and plant a field of maize, anticipating that in a few months down the road, you're going to have several sacks that you're going to sell for a certain amount you will keep, certain amount you will eat as a family. And then the floods come. Gone. So what happens if someone was geoengineering that whole mess so that you will run out of food, so that you have to buy the food that they have messed around with in the lab and grown somewhere and protected from these geoengineering machines? What if that was the game that was being played?
But the real verdict will not come from the court alone. It will come from you. Over 10,000 people have already signed the petition calling for the law to be abolished. But we need more. We need you. Because when laws protect corporations instead of communities, the people must rise.
At See Africa TV, we don't just report the news. We expose the truth they try to hide. And today, the truth is this. African farming is under attack from abroad and from within, but the resistance has begun. Stand with Francisca. Stand with Kenyan farmers. Sign the petition. Share the message. Defend our seeds. Defend our sovereignty. This documentary is for informational and advocacy purposes only. See Africa TV does not incite violence or defamation. All video references and public statements used fall under fair use and are publicly available or used with attribution. We stand for truth, food sovereignty, and the dignity of African farmers.